Okay, we're going to go back over the lesson again real quick. In the previous module, we looked at how to access data on the live access server, how to use the LAS to generate an overlay plot, interpret the data generated by the plots, and find locations within the United States. Real quick, we want to point your attention to the two different types of plots that we have. In this particular one, this is an overlay plot, as you see right here. Real quick, we want to let you know that in overlay plots, there'll be two different lines. In this particular lesson, one of your lines will be your place in Sheridan, Wyoming, and the other will be in Alaska. Real quick, we want to look at the two different axes we have here. Make sure that when you're interpreting the graph that you know which numbers are located on which one. In this particular example, over here on the left-hand side, this starts out at 40, and over here on the right-hand side, it starts out at 0. So when answering questions, that could be a big determining factor in what answers you come up with. Next, we're going to look at something called a difference plot. Real quick, at first glance, you'll notice that on a difference plot, there's only one line. Even though there's only one line, this will in the end be a much more accurate graph. And real quick, to explain what's happening here, on the y-axis, you'll notice that there are numbers above 0 and below 0. Anything in this graph, which is most of it, is above 0. That's where the short wave radiation is greater in Sheridan, Wyoming. However, there is a little bit down here that dips below 0. That would represent a time where the short wave radiation is actually greater in Alaska. Next, we're going to look at the possible locations. Here, we use Google Earth again. We want to let you know that even though the directions tell you to choose certain locations in the United States, it's perfectly fine and acceptable for you to be more specific and say, hey, you know, I live in St. Louis, so I want to use St. Louis as a starting point and choose a place north, a place south, or another place somewhere near it. So make sure you do use this to the best of your ability and choose places that are near you or at least of interest to you. Real quick, we want to look over some example summary questions. These are there are 3 up here. However, there are many more that you'll find at the end of the lesson. And in this particular example, the questions can be found at the end of the student worksheet. So make sure that you look at the end of the lesson or at the bottom of the page, and if you're using MyNESA data, for the questions for your students. Real quick, we want to go to another video segment and show you a little bit more about what's happening inside the classroom with this lesson.
Can you give me a couple of factors, at least 2 factors, that influenced your decisions that contribute to higher solar energy output?
The lower locations, like near the equator, were a lot more sunny than the areas above that.
Okay. You were traveling primarily in North America, so southern states in the United States tend to turn out a little bit better for you.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, anything else? Another factor?
We found that clouds really affected how much energy we got because some of our months, like let's say Chicago, we found that without clouds we could be there for like 11 out of 12 months, but when there were clouds we could only be there about 7 months. So it really makes a difference depending on the weather.
And that tends to be a fairly cloudy city most of the year, right?
Windy city.
Okay, so we have to be careful about when we plan to be there.
Yeah.
So cloud cover had a big effect, and geographic location had a big effect as well. The farther south you were, the more days that you would have sunlight. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Did any of you find a place that you wanted to travel to, but you couldn't be there for very long periods?
So we wanted to try to travel, New England, but after looking, we was like, we really couldn't be there for that long. So we decided to change it up, and we ended up picking Chicago because it's more of a central area. We feel we could be there more months out of the year.
Okay. So based on the data that you saw, the place that you really wanted to go, you really wanted to tour through the New England area, but your vehicle just would not be able to operate there as long as you wanted it to because of the cloud conditions and the amount of wattage that can be generated by your vehicle. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Place that you really wanted to go to, but you found by looking at the data that it just wasn't a good place, you just couldn't generate enough electricity?
In Alaska, you can't really stay there in the winter because there's practically no wattage down there that you can get from the sun.
Okay.
It actually hits a 0.
Really?
It hits 0 in around November, December.
Oh, that's right. And of course, the farther north you go, you have 6 months of daylight and 6 months of darkness. So I could see how that could be a real problem for you during certain times of the year. What was there a time of the year that you could actually go that you wanted to go?
In the summer, it hit 200.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's a
So
lot
you could
higher.
generate enough wattage with your
Basically.
vehicle, but you can only go during the summer months.
Yep.
Okay, interesting. Anybody else? Shay?
Well, like in North Carolina, I mean, no, not North Carolina, South Carolina, we wanted to stay in Charlotte, and
Charlotte? North Carolina.
yeah,
Charlotte's in
okay,
North
I was getting
Carolina.
confused. But yeah, like in the wintertime, like close to towards the wintertime, you really couldn't stay that long because, like, it would be a little bit more cloudy compared to in the summertime.
Okay. What do you got for me?
Well, both of our locations, we can be there all year round.
Okay.
So, we tried Florida and we were above 190.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah. And I think that was your lowest number there.
Right.
So,
yes,
Florida is a great place, and you can be there any time of the year.
yes.
So you guys had an opportunity to put together a plan based on some data that you collected. How was it for you?
It was pretty helpful.
Yeah, pretty cool. Okay. Now imagine being someplace completely different. What if you had a solar-powered robot that has to survive on another planet?
Wow.
Like the Mars exploration rovers. And you can only generate X number of watts depending on where you are. It really makes a big impact with how you get that vehicle to operate.
Okay, real quick. For the end of this section, we were able to see the video of the students going through and discussing why or why not they chose a particular location. Also, just to recap, in this particular segment, we talked about more of the specifics of the lesson, why you should or shouldn't choose things. This is a real good section for your class to go over and discuss, and they'll actually learn a whole lot in this particular segment. So that's all we have for this particular module. We'll see you in the next one.